Hello there, my friends. Welcome to Careers Without 4 Years. I'm Melanie Dunn. I'm a workforce development professional, and this podcast is for anyone who wants to find out where the opportunity is in today's job market for great careers that don't require 4-year degrees. The economy has changed. Today, most jobs don't require bachelor's degrees. We'll hear from professionals in technology, healthcare, the trades, and other industries who love what they do and make a good living at it. In addition, we'll learn how to shop for affordable training, how to pay for it with grants and loans without excessive costs or debt, or even find free training. And if you are a woman or person of color, please listen in for inspiring stories by people who are thriving in careers you may not have seen yourself in. There's a lot of talk about green jobs in the news, but what are they? According to a 2017 Department of Energy report, clean energy jobs accounted for nearly 5 times more jobs than fossil fuels. One area that is expanding is solar. Today, the U.S. solar industry employs over 250,000 people, twice as many as coal. The continued expansion and adoption of solar PV systems will result in excellent job opportunities, particularly for those who complete training courses on solar panel installation. Employment of solar photovoltaic installers is projected to grow 51% from 2019 to 2029, much faster than the average for all occupations. Only 7% of solar installation jobs require a bachelor's degree. Most employers are simply looking for training or on-the-job experience. Solar jobs are good jobs. Compared to similar industries, solar wages are competitive and often above the national average. The average wage for a solar panel installer is $46,500. My guest today is Ayaz Porter, a training supervisor at Grid Alternatives, the nation's largest nonprofit installer of clean energy technologies. Grid creates and installs solar projects that serve low-income households and communities. Grid's training programs in solar panel installation have created paths out of poverty for low-income people of color and members of tribal nations. In addition, they also introduce participants to other career pathways in the trades. Ayaz always felt that, quote, school was not for me, end quote. He tried community college but dropped out, and like a lot of people, he felt confusion and some embarrassment about his lack of career direction. After a few years of working at various jobs, he found his way into the free training program at Grid Alternatives. Today, Ayaz has moved from installation to teaching others how to do it. He talks about the sense of stability he gets from working in solar construction. If there ever is a downturn, he knows he can bounce back quickly. My transferable skills, he said, are stuff they can't take from you. In today's episode, you will learn how Ayaz found his way into free training for a good career in his 20s, why he loves working with his hands, and why getting more skills gives you a sense of stability. Here's the interview. All right, Ayaz, I'm so grateful that you have some time to share with me this morning to talk about solar, careers, construction, and Grid Alternatives. Can you tell me what the mission of Grid Alternatives is?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Melanie. I'm really happy to be here. So Grid Alternatives, we are a nonprofit solar installer, and our mission is a transition to renewable energy for all, pretty much, and that includes everyone. It's usually a lot of marginalized communities are left out of the transition to clean energy, so we want to make sure that everyone can come along on this on the turning over into renewable energy on the grid. So, yeah.
I see. So are you serving homeowners or commercial or both?
Yes. We're serving homeowners, tenants, rental, pretty much any facet that we can use in the solar industry to positively impact marginalized communities is where we'll go through. Our primary method of doing that is through installation on homeowners, and then we also do apartment complexes so that way renters can benefit, and then also we do utility scale work. So we recently completed a solar farm that over 400 or more, like over 400 plus families in the DC region will be able to benefit.
Oh, that's terrific. It sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I bet they like you a lot, your customers.
Yeah, we have a really good relationship with our clients that go programs. So yeah, it's really good to also just be able to give back to the community, since I am from the DC region. So it's a pretty satisfying work.
Yeah, I understand that. As I told you, I think I lived down there for about 7 years. I love the DC area. So can you tell us sort of what your role is at Grid Alternatives?
Yeah. So my main role at Grid Alternatives is I'm a workforce training supervisor. So what that means is I train people on how to join the solar workforce. So that can be in a lot of different capacities, but primarily I train people in the basics of installation so they can get jobs as entry-level installers in the solar industry. We also train them, and essentially the way we do that is I currently help with training in our main program, which is SolarWorks DC, which is a 12-week job training program where we have people from the community who join and will essentially go work with us for these 12 weeks, both in the classroom and on job sites, and come out the program ready to work for various solar companies in the region.
Oh, that's terrific. I think you mentioned also that training is paid. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a paid training program for people who join, because 12 weeks is a lot to ask of people. So we pay you during the program so that way you can be able to continue to attend and then also be able to take care of your needs at home.
Yeah, that's terrific. And just so I'm sure that I asked this, if I'm in the DC area and I'm interested, can I get in touch with you on the website to apply to the program, or how does your application process work?
Yeah, so our application process, you can register or you can sign up from our website, which is www.gridalternatives.org/Mid-Atlantic. And then you can go from there to get involved, and you can just shoot us an email at solarworksdc@gridalternatives.org. We check the inbox pretty much every day. So yeah, that's another way to get in touch with us about your interest program. And then also, let's see, you can also go to the DC Infrastructure Academy and sign up there on 2330 Palmore Road Southeast in Washington, DC. Our training facility, our classroom facility is out of that building. So they would be able to sign you up for the program as well.
That's great. Thank you so much. It makes me think about when I find a free training program, I always like to shout it to the rooftops. And I think one of the things that we were discussing when we met was the fact that your program is also an entry into construction careers in general.
Yeah, it was definitely it is definitely a great way to enter the construction industry. I personally had no construction experience. I'm an alumni of the program as well. I had no construction experience when I started it, and now I am able to do a lot more than I was able to before this. I'm now a lot handier than I used to be.
Tell us how you got into the industry and what your path was, say, starting when you were in high school and trying to figure out what would be your career path.
Yeah. So for some context, because it's going to be needed. So I grew up overseas for a good chunk of my life, even though I am from the DC region. My dad got a job out there, out of the country with an engineering firm. They placed him in Saudi Arabia. So I grew up in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia for quite a while, almost over a decade, or a little over a decade. But essentially, that being said, I attended the American International School of Riyadh, which is somewhat upper middle class, like kind of high school, wealthier families in the region would send their kids there, and of course, the American expats would send their kids there. And that was kind of the way it went. But that being said, the reason why I say that is because in high school, once you get into high school, or once I started high school, the general move was, go to college. That's your next step. Right after this, you're just going to go to college, go to university, and then the rest of your life from there. So that was it. That was the path. There was really no other options offered or really talked about in the school.
Yeah.
It was assumed everyone would go to college because that was what everyone did there. You just go to college, and that was where you go to university. And then, you just figure out your life from there. I did not like school growing up. I was not the biggest fan of school. I was not a fan. But I did it. And in hindsight, it was really kind of not very smart of me to assume that 4 more years of school would be a wise decision. But I went ahead and went with that and applied to the university. I got in, or more accurately, I applied to the University of the United States because I'm from here. So I was like, okay, go back to home country, go to school here. I applied to the University of North Carolina at Greensboro since I know the region. I have family down there. I applied to a few other universities as well, but I got into UNCG. That was the one I cared about going to because I had at least a support network there to at least set myself up in the United States when I got back. And I went to university. I did not spend my time responsibly in university beyond like the first couple of semesters. But I also realized while I was there, this wasn't really for me. I was not enjoying my time there. I was not doing anything beneficial with it. I was kind of something I took stock of. I wasn't really doing too much with it. I was just kind of there. And I didn't like it. I didn't like my major. It was business administration. I didn't with a focus in accounting, which is very dry. But yeah, so I ended up leaving after a year and a half. I didn't really even stay to complete like an associate's degree or anything like that. I just left university, withdrew, and moved back up to the DC region to try and just live and work and figure out what to do next. And so yeah, I had some jobs at the time. I got a job. I got a couple of different jobs. One like food service, and one working at an airport at a national airport. And those, it wasn't really a career, but it was really put money in my pocket, kept me fed, kept my rent paid. And I kind of felt a bit ashamed about leaving college, but I don't know. It was just a thing more over time because I left when I was like 20, and then by the time I found out about the solar industry, I was about 23, 24. But during that time period in between, it was just kind of like a thing that had happened. I just left college. That was it. I tried to not focus too much on it because it was a point of shame for me at the time. But
I just totally understand that, and that's a story I hear over and over again. It's just that I think the United States lacks a middle path between college and the military that is directive. We kind of drop people on the threshold of adulthood after high school, and that's not really enough for most people. They say that there's a lot of data now that around college graduation rates, and then there's a lot of data about college completion, which is most people don't complete because college is not right for everyone and it's too expensive. And see, I guess what concerns me is the amount of vagueness around it. We don't do career education in the schools. So you have to find yourself like you did in a career that you enjoy, right?
Yeah, pretty much. I had to just suddenly stumble on it.
Yeah. And that's a lot of years though that you spent. And I do think that that's unfair. It's one thing I think to say, and I think you're pretty honest about it, being a little immature,
But a lot of people are immature at 18 years old.
Yeah, of course. So long and short of it, I was about 23, got laid off from my job at the airport, and I was unemployed at the time. I, needed to do something at least to like keep the resume looking fresh for for jobs that I was applying to. And of all things I did not expect, my dad just was like, "Hey, I'm really starting to look into like the renewable stuff, and you should look at Grid Alternatives. They do like volunteer installations, so you don't have to have experience. You can just go out and like try it out. Might be something you can do for your resume or whatever you want to do, man." And I was like, oh, "Okay, cool." I didn't really think too hard about it, but then I found out Grid had an office here in DC, so I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." So I went to their orientation. They told me how it goes, and I was like, okay, fair enough. And eventually, a opportunity to go install happened, and I was like, okay, signed up, did it, and I learned a couple things about myself that I was kind of surprised about while I was out on that first install in Baltimore, Maryland. One, that I don't mind this working in the summer heat, because it was in the middle of the Baltimore summer, which is pretty rough. And two, I like working with my hands, which was not something I expected for myself. That like the longest time, didn't think that was for me. And then three, I'd really like to be paid to do this. So I literally turned and asked the lead installer on the roof. I was just like, "Hey, I like doing this. How do I get paid to do it?" And he was like, "We've actually got this training program we've got coming up in the fall. If you want to sign up for that." I was like, I would very much like to. So and that was the first like iteration of SolWorks DC back in 2017. So I signed up. I went through an interview process with Grid, and I got into the training program. And through my 12 weeks, I went out on a bunch of different installs with them all over Washington DC, and ended up getting hired at at a for-profit solar company after the experience. And I just put in my time at the for-profit solar company, just pretty much day in, day out, doing installation, site assessment, all this other stuff. I got to be exposed essentially to other aspects of the solar industry through both the training program and then also through the company that I ended up working with. And then it just kind of compounded from there, because I essentially started to gain, what they call transferable skills. So it was just like, it's just stuff they can't take from you. So like, as good as like, the better I got, the better and the more employable I am. So pretty much anywhere. So that's like the best thing I've found, is just because especially getting laid off, it kind of shakes you to your core. So you feel like a sense of stability, like, okay, yeah, I can do this, because it really does shake you, because you're like, I'm like, for at least like a week or two, like a couple weeks after, I was just like, am I okay at this? Am I really good at anything? I can't really do anything. So it's weird. It was weirdly comforting after going through that yeah. I know how to do these things, and that makes me, one, employable, but two, also good at something, which is kind of important to recenter yourself after like taking that on the chin, pretty much.
Yep, you've said a mouthful there. It's really great. Transferable skills, feeling that we're resilient in the job marketplace. Our employment waxes and wanes, and the more skills that we can accrue, the more resilient we can become. And I think you've also said, the personal price that we pay when we're not in that position. And also, you pointed out something else that I see coming up again and again about careers in the trades, which is that great sense of satisfaction that you get from being able to make something. And that the job is not boring, that you get to, every job is different. This is what I've heard, right? And that you're the problem solver. You're the person that figures it out, right? And that they call it personal agency, a sense of agency that happens for people in the trades a lot. That a lot of today's
white collar workforce is sitting at a computer all day and feeling sort of worn down by endlessly inputting data and never able to sort of pull away from the desk with a sense of satisfaction that the job was done. And so for those of you out there that feel like maybe sitting at a job all day is not really for you, and I'm one of those people too. Construction is a wonderful career. There are all sorts of ways to go with it, really, in just one of the trades. And there's also just huge opportunities in construction management too. If you like to build things, if you like to see buildings go up from the ground up, if you like to repair things and make them better,
Yeah.
right? These are all things that you can do.
Yeah, there's a lot that you can do within it. For me personally, and speaking from my career path, I always, at least when I learned more about the solar industry and saw like the aspects that you can do that are behind the scenes, not necessarily always outside, I started thinking about, especially when I would work at construction crews, and I'm seeing, usually people that are like older, like a bit older in the workforce, that are like out. I just remember thinking, okay, I'm gonna get off the roof eventually. I gotta get off the roof eventually. And so that was kind of like my career trajectory path. How I partly ended up as a workforce training supervisor, because I was like, all right, I can do the work. What else can I do within this? And so that was kind of like how I ended up as a workforce training supervisor, in part because I've also learned in construction during my time here that there are layoffs. That's a thing that happens, especially when jobs are done or there's not enough jobs. For example, they'll cut crews, lay off people as needed. And it's not something you take personal. It's not terrible. It's just the way the industry tends to work. But also the thing again, I had transferable skills. My job hunt versus when I was laid off from like pre-construction, night and day. I was out of work for like almost like a good chunk of the year originally when I first pre-construction layoff. But like this one, I was employed like within a month. It was really nice.
That's wonderful, because, and I know there are a lot of people out there today that are juggling several minimum wage jobs to make ends meet. And there's a report that was put out that there are 30 million Americans that could earn 70% more if they just got some more education or training. So if you're one of those people out there, yeah, I want to say, like, Ayaz did it. This is another way you can go. And often just taking the personal initiative of getting in touch with a training organization or walking up to a builder of homes or buildings, commercial in your neighborhood or in your city, and asking them how you get involved. This can be the beginning of something. Right now, how many people do you have in the program?
Right now, our current spring cohort is 16 trainees, varying backgrounds. Also, I'm personally pleased because this is also the largest amount of women we've had in the training program so far, or like currently, I should say. So in this cohort, there's four women that are currently going through this program with us, and it's really great to see women in the trades. We like the trades does have a diversity problem in that regard. So please, we need more women in trades. I'm a huge advocate for that.
Okay, so again, women out there, this is your chance too. There are plenty of opportunities for women. And if you're unsure in your state or in your city where to go, and you might not have grid alternatives or an organization like that, also look at the State Department of Labor, because often at the state level, they're involved in efforts to bring more women, more people of color, and more veterans into construction careers. And sometimes there's some excellent training programs there. as well as there's always the union route too. So unions are also taking another look at women, trying to promote women. We do have another podcast about a trade union specifically, but the point is, these are some clear paths to employment in trade jobs, and these are things you can easily explore yourself. Anyway, thanks for coming on the show today.
Me, this has been an absolute joy. Thank you.
Oh, it's been a joy to have you. Thank you so much for your time. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, please remember to subscribe and share this with your friends and leave us a comment. I'd love to know what you're thinking. For more information about today's episode and links to some of the information that was provided, please visit us on our Instagram or our Facebook pages at Careers Without 4 Years. Take care.